Hello there, and welcome back to the True Crusade Stories podcast with your girl, Coach Mo, your favorite family finance coach, coming to you live and direct from my studio. Listen, I hope your day has been blessed beyond measure. I can most definitely say that I am feeling my age today, which is not a bad thing, all right? I am feeling like a grown woman should feel. Okay. I'm feeling free. I'm feeling excited about the future. I'm most definitely feeling like God is in control. I'm feeling not anxious. I wouldn't say anxious, but I'm most definitely excited to see how things are going to firm up. Right, over these next couple of months. I hope you're excited as well. I hope there is something that you can say that happened in your day, which was most definitely a blessing beyond you just waking up this morning, which is a blessing all by itself, okay? Because some people did not make it, but you did. And so I'm so excited to share our topic for today. And I'm going to tell you what, this is a hot topic that we've been talking about just overall in general in our society, living paycheck to paycheck. All right. But today we're going to flip the script and talking about breaking the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. Now, if you are one of those persons who feel like, man, I'm living check to check, I have to wait for the next check to come in. And if that check doesn't come, there may be some things that my family misses out on because I don't get that check. Maybe I can't pay my light bill on time or my gas bill or my mortgage on time. And so therefore, I want to break that cycle. And so traditionally, what people do is they just go get another job, right? They go get another job, and now they may be working a full-time job and a part-time job in the evenings or even the weekend. Some people just decide, let me cut some expenses. So we're going to be talking about several things and several ways to break that cycle, okay? Because it's important that you as a person, right, that you're not just working to live, that you're not just barely surviving, barely making ends meet, but you want to see a future with some money, right? You want to have some hope for a future, meaning that this will not continue forever. Well, I'm going to tell you what, it won't happen by happenstance. It won't happen by accident, but it will be happening by intentionality. Okay. And so I want to first talk about our scripture highlight for the week, which is Proverbs, the 10th chapter, and that's verses 4-5. Okay. And so I love this scripture because it's most definitely relevant at any time in our lives, but it's important and it's wisdom for today. And so verse number 4 says, "He becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand, but the hand of the diligent maketh rich." Okay. So what is that saying? You can't become wealthy or rich just simply by being lazy, okay? Just simply by complaining and making no changes. But the diligent hand maketh rich. He that gathereth in summer is a wise son, but he that sleepeth in the harvest is a son that causeth shame. See, so we have to work until the job gets done. We have to work until it's done, okay? And so we can't give up. We can't throw in a towel. We can't say, I'm living paycheck to paycheck and there's nothing more for me. No, we want to be content in whatever state we find ourselves, but we also want to plan for our future, pray and ask God to help us, to give us a plan. And also getting with a finance coach, as such as myself, who can help you to navigate those muddy waters, which are finances for most people. All right. So I hope you enjoyed that scripture. Take some time to reflect on that, throughout that week. Continue to read the entire chapter 10 of Proverbs, because it's definitely a powerful book, a book of wisdom. My mom always told me just read one Proverbs a day, because some days some months you'll read 31 of them, and some months you just may read 28. But either way, this is wisdom for today. All right. And so let's go back to our topic of breaking the paycheck to paycheck cycle, because there are, I believe, some misconceptions about how this even started. Why are we still struggling for some of us, right? Why is this happening? What is going on? How can I fix this? How can I change these things? So let's talk about the first point. And so, first and foremost, let's talk about the psychological frameworks for breaking free from scarcity mindsets. So first, we need to understand how financial scarcity affects cognitive bandwidth and decision making. Just simply the things that you have been taught, just simply the fact that a person may be thinking there's not enough for me. There's not enough for everybody, right? They're thinking that, if somebody becomes wealthy, then there's no opportunity or chance that I can ever become wealthy. It's that type of thinking that causes some people to not even have the bandwidth or the capacity to understand or to know, man, I am supposed to have money. See, understanding how financial scarcity affects your bandwidth, and decision making is everything. So let's talk about an example really quick. So say, for example, I'm working a job and my goal every weekend is simply to plan every week is to wait for Friday. Thank God it's Friday. Maybe I get paid on Friday and I'm rich throughout the weekend. And then on Monday, I'm broke again. And for some people, they're broke by Friday night, right? And it may not be because they're balling out of control. It may not be because, they're mishandling their money, but perhaps they're just planning for the weekend, planning to, relax, enjoy, do some things, right? Maybe not do some things. And Monday rolls around. See, some people plan for the weekend. But wealthy people plan for a generation. Can y'all hear me? Okay. They plan for a generation. So scarcity mindset must go, right? And it must cease because that means that, there's not enough for me. There's not enough for everyone. But let me tell you something. There is enough for us all to win. There is room for everyone at the top, as some people say. All right. In addition, techniques for creating psychological distance from immediate financial pressures. See, we have to keep in mind that there are some pressures around us in our society that cause us to want to buy things like, do you remember when people were saying TikTok made me buy it? So many different items on TikTok went viral and people just had to buy it because they just had to have it because everyone else was getting it. Those are the type of things that I'm talking about. And so perhaps one thing that we can put in place of that is maybe stand off social media when you get paid so that you're not making a decision that's going to cause you to be broke until you get paid again. See, a lot of times spending is emotional. And if we're not strategic in our thinking and our spending and our budgeting, then it's a possibility that we may not have any money, by Saturday when we got paid on Friday. So there are some financial pressures, even food, right? And so when you leave your job at 5:00 on Friday evening, now you have to drive past all the restaurants, and everybody's food smells good. Everybody's competing for your attention. You may be getting emails from different restaurants that are saying, hey, we got a happy hour going on over here, a $1 wing over here, and all of these different things. But by the time you get in there, you didn't even get the dollar a wing special. Right? You got a New York strip with mashed potatoes fully loaded. You got bread, you got drinks. And before you knew it, you were spending $100 on one meal. Meanwhile, electric bill needs to be paid. Mortgage needs to be paid. All these other things. So we have to be careful with how we are and what we're doing. We have to really set boundaries, right? Because this is what's going to help us to get past and break through some things. How about this? Shifting from reactive to proactive thinking about mental models and frameworks, okay? Shifting from reactive to proactive. So it's always better to be proactive. Can somebody say amen? It's always better to be proactive. Of course, there are some things that we have to react to. For example, if we're driving and somebody pulls out in front of us, we may need to, pump the brakes really quick, and that's reactive. But if I was driving and I was paying attention to my surroundings and not driving too close to the car in front of me, perhaps that would have been a proactive approach in case somebody did try to cut me off. So some things we can't avoid, but some things we can avoid, and we have to keep those things in mind and shift that, right, to make sure that it's working for our good and not against us. What about building self-efficiency through small financial wins and skill development? See, there's nothing like learning something new and actually putting it in practice so that your life can be changed. See, education is no good if nobody plans to ever use it or apply it, right? And so think about this. I'm not going to read a book about riding a bike. I'm actually going to get on a bike and ride it. And so I have to learn by doing, not just by reading and observing and just thinking about it. So some things have to be put in motion so that we can get to the places that we want to go. And so let's talk about another area that we could potentially break the cycle of living check to check. How about creating breathing room with strategic cash flow management? The budget. Okay, the budget, the beloved word budget. Okay, I'm saying beloved because I know that sometimes we think, I don't want a budget. That's restrictive. That's not giving me what I want. I want it now. But in a society where we get everything that we want right now, that would make us very spoiled. Would you agree? Can you think about your child for a second, if you have children, and if every time your child asks you for something and you said yes every time, how would they grow up? If they wanted candy for dinner, would you just give them the candy and say, don't worry about eating the vegetables, don't worry about eating the chicken and the starch and drinking some water, but just go ahead and eat candy all day if you like? Now, if we did that, our kids' teeth would be rotten and a dentist would be looking at us like, what are you doing? Because you must be supplying this child with food unless they're just sneaking in the pantry and just eating sugar all night long. And so there are some things that some boundaries that we have to put in place, even for ourselves, so that we can handle that cash flow. So one of the things is paying yourself first. Paying yourself first is most definitely rewarding. Why? Because you don't feel very restrictive, but you have to set an amount on how much you're going to pay yourself. Because if you don't set a parameter, then it's a possibility that you may pay yourself 75% of your check, 25% left for the bills, and there's not enough. See, it really depends on how much money you're making, right? But you have to know what's coming in and what's going out. That is cash flow management. How about using a bill calendar and restructuring to improve monthly cash flow? See, that's one of the things I did personally. I just decided to do all the things, right? I downloaded an app for paying my bills. I created a spreadsheet, which I've been using for years to pay my bills, knowing when things are due, how much the bills are, having a day set aside so that I can actually go through and see what bills were due and what the amounts were. See, that takes work. Right? That actually takes some work, but factor that time in so that you can reduce those overdraft risks. Because see, we already know that the bills that are pretty consistent are monthly. My light bill is due about the same time every month, give or take a day or two. My gas bill, same thing. My phone bill, the same thing. My cable bill, the same thing, right? Now, food and grocery, that's something different because we don't always have to go shopping every single day. But at the same time, understanding that, oh my goodness, there are some things that I need to have money in my account for. And so if I say, all right, well, I'm going to have this bill due on the 28th of the month. This is my due date. I wouldn't go back to my credit card company and say, well, I don't know. Is there any way that you can do it on the third Friday of the month because I'm not sure about the 28th? No, you need to manage your resources well and have the money available in your account. You have to make sure that you don't spend it all, right? So whether or not that is putting it in a savings account and reserving it for your bills or using discipline, whatever's going to work for you, okay? What about income smoothing techniques for variable or irregular earnings? And see, listen, I work in the business. Well, I am a business owner, right? And I am a finance coach. And so here is the thing. My money is not always the same all the time. If I don't work, I don't get paid, right? If business is not being done in my business, then I'm not getting paid in my business. And so listen, sometimes you may have a type of work where your money is not consistent, but how can I get on track if my money is inconsistent? I want you to contact me so I can give you more information on that. I'm not going to spill all the beans on this podcast, okay? But I'm giving you enough to be dangerous, because there are some things that you can put in place to ensure that even your irregular earnings are consistent, okay? Let's talk about building choice architecture that makes saving automatic. Automatic saving. So you know how with your savings account, they'll say, you can round up and put that extra change inside your savings account. I remember a bank that I used to bank with years ago here locally that, I did that with them. And so the change would just go directly in my savings account. So you know how when you go out and you spend cash, and some people, they spend the cash and they put the change, the coins, inside of a jar in their home or whatever the case may be. Now, if you're really trying to save up for something, then you want to create those barriers, or not barriers, but boundaries, so that you can ensure that it's not spent without cause. Okay. And so for some people, that may be a savings account, but how many times have you had the opportunity to make a transfer from your savings account to your checkings account, and all of a sudden the savings account is empty? And so there are some other things that we can put in place that will cause us to not spend up that money. Okay. All right. So let's keep going. How about using automation to create multiple small savings buckets, or even implementing split direct deposits for invisible saving? See, when you don't see it, then you don't touch it, right? And so what if you had something in place so that even your paycheck would not just go directly in your checking account, but it's going into a savings account? What about if you have multiple savings accounts where you can place some money in for this and for that? And see, you want to keep in mind that sometimes, the bank will have a minimum amount that you need to have in your checking or savings account. And so how many savings accounts could you actually open without a fee? So it's definitely something to keep in mind. And I know with my bank, one thing that I can do is I can actually rename the savings accounts on my end, or my accounts on my end. And so you may be able to do that at your bank as well. And so you can say, this is for emergencies, this is for vacation, whatever that looks like. But there may be a better way for you to save for a future vacation than that. Talk to me about that via email, okay? And so let's keep going, you guys. Income expansion strategies beyond traditional employment. This is a huge one. We see it all the time. People are having or implementing side hustles. They're finding a way to earn additional income from home, on the weekend, delivering food, whatever it is. And there's some things that I won't even discuss on here that people are doing nowadays, which is totally crazy. All right. And I'm not suggesting that you do that. But what I'm telling you is there are ways for you to earn additional income. At this point, living paycheck to paycheck is absolutely a choice. We have to find ways to monetize our skills so that we can get paid. What are you good at right now that you can monetize? What ability do you have? What talent do you have right now that you can get out of your comfort zone and actually monetize that? How much additional income do you need per month? See, that's the first question. How much do I need? And if I created a product and sold so many of those items at such and such a cost, then I can not only break even, but I can be in a profit from month to month for your household. So creating scalable side income with minimum startup requirements is definitely a key. There's lots of different things that you can do out there nowadays where you don't have to pay much money to get started, but you do have to pay to get started because it is a business. Okay. Building additional value in current roles to increase primary income. So this is a tried and true. So many people, they go back to school so that they can increase their skill set and earn additional income. Not always going to happen, right? So this is most definitely a risk. These are risks that you would take in order to better yourself and earn more income. Now, the school thing, I would definitely say this is something that you have to be okay with going through the process, taking a couple of years before you actually change your income. Whereas with a business opportunity or some type of a side hustle, you can change things a lot sooner. And so we have to keep in mind that there are things that we can do now to break the paycheck to paycheck cycle, but you have to be willing. Just like Proverbs 10 said, you have to be willing to work and be diligent, okay? And so here's another thing. Leveraging the sharing economy for quick income opportunities. So this is kind of the same thing that I've been saying already, but we have to think about, what can I do? What is my value proposition? How can I bring value to the marketplace and monetize that? It's a huge deal, you guys. And so this last point I'll say, and then we're going to close, small wins approach to building financial stability. There's nothing like tracking your success and knowing where you're going and knowing that you're making progress. Something about that tells our brain that we're actually doing something good. So if all I do is throw a couple of dollars inside of a jar, I don't really know how much money I'm spending. I may be able to see it, which is a good start. But if I'm not counting it consistently, I don't know how close I am to getting to my goal. But what about if I created a milestone map with frequent achievable targets? So think about this. Have you ever seen a money meter? So someone may have been, raising money to do something inside of a church. They may have been raising money to do something for an organization. And we can see that when money is being contributed to that foundation, that they update the money meter so you can see it going all the way to the top. And maybe it's not called the money meter, but it's like a money thermometer, if you will. And so it's a visual thing. And you can see it, and it's helping you to know that, man, what I'm doing is actually working, and it encourages you to keep moving forward. All right. What about building momentum through strategic sequencing of financial goals? See, once I accomplish one thing, now I can move to the next thing. Now I get to move to the next thing because I got the first thing done first. So we have to keep the end with mind, and we have to keep the end in mind, start with the end in mind, right? As Steve Covey would say. But at the end of the day, we need to write it down. We got to track our progress, because if we're not tracking our progress, then we don't know that we're making progress. And it's easy to give up when you don't see any progress. Okay. I want to hit you with a couple of statistics and we're going to be done. 61% of Americans, so I said 60 earlier, but this is as of 2024, 61% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, including 42% of those earning over $100,000 annually. See, so this thing does not discriminate. People who make six figures live check to check too. Okay, 42% of them are living check to check. Why? Because more money, more problems when you don't have a plan. All right. Households that automate savings save 2 times more than those who don't. That's according to the National Bureau of Economic Research in 2023. That previous statistic I gave you was from the Lending Club in 2024. This last statistic here, people who maintain even a small emergency fund, so somewhere around $250 to $500, are 31% less likely to experience financial hardship after unexpected expenses. That's from Financial Health Network in 2023. So I hope that you see and know that there are ways for us to break the paycheck to paycheck cycle. Now, listen, I want you to share this podcast with someone that you know. I want you to share this podcast with someone that can use it, because listen, people are suffering in silence and you may not know who needs it, but just share it with everybody and let them silently make their choice that they want to do something different with their money, that they want to have the opportunity to become financially independent, and have the opportunity to have a future with money, okay? Because none of us want to work until we're 95. Nobody truly wants to do that unless they just have a true passion for what they do. But we have to get real with the fact that one day we will not be able to work. And so all that we can do is all that we can do, and all that we can do is enough. Okay. And so that's all I have for this today's episode. I pray that you learned something or heard something that can be useful on your money journey. Remember that we'll be back next week with another crusade story. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast to stay in the know on hot money topics just like this one. Okay. And so remember, I am just one email away. And so my email address is coachmo@trueresilience.net. Again, that is coach. So that's COACHMO @TRUresilience.net. Be safe, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.